Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another Escape from Tarkov wipe day tips and tricks video. So lads, it is officially Wipemas Eve. The wipe is happening tomorrow. I'm actually going to be going to bed probably as soon as I finish recording this because I have to be up at 8 a.m. for the wipe. Feels good. So I said I would crank out this video before I go to sleep so I could give you guys some tips and tricks to use on wipe day and hopefully make your wipe day experience a little bit smoother. So we are going to get into the first topic here, which is, lads, go check out the Streets expansion. Now, why would you want to do that instead of going straight into your tasks? Well, I'll tell you. You're going to want to go to the Streets expansion in like an offline raid. You're going to look around. You're going to see if you can maybe find some cool spawns. And then what you can do is, once you've discovered maybe some new cool spawns, maybe there's a good spot for Salewas, maybe there's some crazy tech spawns or something like that, you can then go to these spots on your scav run. And meanwhile, while you're scavving Streets, you're also learning the new expansion. So that if there's any new quests taking place on there, you can go there with confidence, knowing where you're at. Also, you know, it's an expansion. It's a new area on a map that we got last year. Like, it's going to be cool. It looks really great from the trailer. So moving on from that point, lads, do your scav runs. This is super, super important. After every single raid, get into the habit of doing your scav runs. So for me, my strategy is, if I just want to do a quick one, I will go to factory and I will instantly extract. I will see what gear my scav has on, and then I will likely take that gear and use it on my PMC run. So it is pretty much a more or less free kit every single time you do your scav run. Now, sometimes your scav's going to have shit gear, unlucky, but sometimes you'll get some good stuff that you will want to use on your PMC, and you can do these runs in less than 30 seconds. You spawn in, you run straight to your nearest extract, you get out, you grab whatever backpack, rig, armor, helmet that your scav has on top of the gun, and then any random stuff that your scav happens to spawn with, which can also include quest keys, which is really important to find in the early game. Now, for people that want to do longer scav runs, interchange computers and, of course, tech items from the tech store, and then hideout items from the back of Ollie and the back of Goshan. Now, these are a little bit spooky because most people are going to be scavving on interchange in the early game in order to pick up early hideout items to enhance their hideout. So if you're not interested in that, you can go to Woods. You can look for rare spawns on Woods, but you can also go to the med camp on Woods, which has a ton of not only food, but medical supplies that you can use on your PMC. And then it'll also have your Salewas for the early game, which is very important because Salewas kind of block quest progression a little bit. For those of you out there that do enjoy doing stash runs, customs and shoreline are generally less contested in the early game than interchange. Interchange is probably the most popular map to do stash runs on, so you will be less contested on customs and shoreline. So give those a go. You could even scav at nighttime if you know the map well enough, and you would probably be left very much alone. One quick gun tip for the beginning of this wipe: the UMP is literally the best gun in the game in the early wipe. As soon as you can get your hands on the UMP, I would suggest running that. I know people that literally run that gun until they're level 40. The reason why it's great, it has no recoil, it's super cheap, the ammo's super cheap, you can just bring as many mags as you want, and if you drop one, it doesn't really matter, they're not worth anything. Has no recoil. Most people in the early game aren't going to have visors. You'd be very unlucky to run into a PMC with a visor, but the ammo generally is pretty good, and if you just shoot for the face or shoot for the legs, you're going to down people very, very quickly with the UMP. So that's just one thing I want to put out there. UMP is kind of slept on by a lot of players. If you haven't been a UMP enjoyer up until now, I would suggest giving it a try in the early game. Now, these are some really important tips here, but guys, when it comes to early game PvP, do not take fights, okay? Why would you not want to take fights in the early game of Tarkov? Well, I'll tell you why. A lot of people in the early game of Tarkov are going to be running naked Mosin, they're going to be running naked shotgun, they're going to be running naked pistol. And the reason why they're running naked is because they want to kill a scav, take their armor, and then play out the rest of their raid. It's almost like a zero to hero thing. You know, they'll get a backpack, a rig, armor, helmet, whatever from a scav or another player that they get the drop on. But why would you ever want to risk your kit to fight a naked player? It is never going to be profitable for you. All that's going to do is it's going to slow you down. It's going to make it so other people can show up to where you're fighting. You're making a bunch of noise because usually these fights aren't as quick as, you know, one bullet fights over. They usually drag out. So that leaves time for third parties when you're in there trying to get your quest items and, you know, loot some stuff and get out before the area gets hot. There is no reason for you with your kit on, if you have a decent kit on, to fight some guy with a Mosin, especially if he's naked, because all he has to do is land one headshot on you, you're back to the lobby, and you've got to go again, and you're going to lose on any items that you've picked up or any quest progression that you had for that raid. So that is simply why I do not fight that much in the early game. I will run away from fights. The thing in the early game is you've got to get through it fast. Why do you want to get through it fast? To get to better gear and better equipment and get out of these early quest locations that are always swarmed by tons of people in every single one of your raids. Don't let anybody slow you down, okay? People call you pussy. Who cares? You're going to be a pussy, but you're going to be level 42 max traders. You know what I mean? While everybody else is still trying to get their bronze pocket watch. So just keep that in mind. Also, bosses in the early game, they are hell. They will kill you damn near instantly. They will kill you damn near instantly in the end game. Even if you have a slick, an Alton, a killer armor, it doesn't matter. Sometimes bosses will just instantly kill you, okay? Unless you are incredibly confident in whatever weapon that you have in an early game raid and you run into like Reshala or Killa or Glockar or any boss. Maybe excluding Reshala if you want to get the golden pistol early for the task, but like that is so far down the line that I just wouldn't worry about it. Your life is so much more important to you. Now, moving on from that, watch your weight in the early game. Don't be greedy. Don't pick up too much stuff. Don't let your weight go into the red where you're moving at snail's pace trying to get out of the raid, because that will usually get you killed, okay? You want to be fast. So only pick up priority items, stuff that's really expensive, quest items. Just don't let your weight go too high. Also, any visored helmet is gold in the early game. If it's a kiver with a visor, that is so good, because what will that save you from? Shitty 9mm. It'll save you from most shotgun rounds. It'll save you from weak, like, you know, AR rounds. Any visored helmet in the early game will end up saving your life a lot, especially if you can get your hands on like a Zish or something like that. Or God, even if you somehow manage to get like a BNTI helmet, or if you get really lucky and you find an Alton, if you play it right, you will be unkillable for the first few days of the wipe. Moving on to the next thing, hoard hideout items. This is super easy to do and they're super readily available everywhere. Just hoard all this stuff until you get the flea market unlocked, and you will make a ton of money, and you will also not have to pay for items while you're trying to upgrade your hideout. Super, super simple. So hideout items are gold in the early game. Also, now that they have changed unlocking Jaeger to level 2, one quick thing you can do at the very start of the wipe is do a factory until you are level 2, and then accept the introduction quest, and then go straight to Woods, grab the note, get out of Woods as fast as possible, because that place is going to be swarmed in the early game because everybody wants to get Jaeger unlocked. So do a quick factory run, kill a couple of scavs, that should be all you need to get to level 2, and then straight to Woods and get that done. One quick thing, this is kind of a trap for new players. Don't waste your money on backpacks. Backpacks will end up costing you a fortune in the long run. It is very easy to pick up a bag off a scav, pick up a bag off another player. You would be surprised. Even just buying scav backpacks will add up a ton over time, okay? So if you're a newer player, I would recommend that you kind of chill on buying backpacks unless you're doing like a night raid or something very quiet, something very risk-free. Buying backpacks will waste a lot of money. And also save all of your bags that you get from scavs, save all of your bags that you get from your own scav runs. Try to stack as many as possible, because in the long run, this will save you a lot of money, and you can just use a smaller bag in the meantime until you get your hands on a bigger one from a scav or another player. Trust me, you will save a fortune. Also, night raids with flashlights are great. Nobody ever really does them. You will be a lot less contested in nighttime raids because nobody in the early game has NVGs. Nobody really wants to do night raids with a flashlight. But if you know the maps well enough, you can navigate these very, very easily. As far as flash drives go, lads, safes on customs is where I get mine every single wipe. I get them everywhere. And the reason why I get them from safes on customs is because I loot a ton of jackets in the early game. I loot all of the jackets on customs in the early game. I grab all these safe keys really early, and then I go through and I grab items like cat statues, lion statues, horse statues. I pick up diaries to sell for dollars, and then the cats, lions, and horses are used for the docs case trade, which is something you're also going to want to try and get your hands on very early. I believe you can get it from level 2 therapist. So make sure that you can try and like get your hands on those safe keys, because that is the easiest way you're going to get yourself your early game flash drives. As far as Salewas are concerned, lads, loot all your scavs. Scav backpacks in the early game often have Salewas in them. It can be a really easy way to get them if you end up killing a lot of scavs. Woods med camp is usually where I find all of mine. Also, one little thing, the key for this is actually very commonly found. The med box room in New Gas Station, it has a med bag and a med box. You can also loot this in order to get meds for yourself, and then any Salewas that you get, you can use these for your task. Now, moving on to the next hot topic, gas analyzers. So gas analyzers can be found at Interchange in the tech stores. So you've got Techno, you've got Tech Light, and then you also have German, which is across from Mantis. You can loot these rooms if there's nobody there. Buy a lottery ticket. These rooms are going to be very contested in the early game. So if you do get a good spawn for one of these rooms and you do grab a gas analyzer, I suggest you get the hell out of there, because it's about to be swarmed by literally every single player playing that map. For people that don't like going to Interchange to grab their gas analyzers, filing cabinets on streets, I have a guide on my YouTube channel on farming streets filing cabinets. Super, super good. Not only for the gas analyzers, but also you can get tons of other great loot in them. Lots of hideout stuff, lots of barter items, lots of generally pretty expensive stuff that you can use to sell on the flea market to make yourself some money. So I would highly recommend checking out that video. And also there is a bunch of filing cabinets on customs in dorms as well that are free. And you can just go loot those every single time you're farming for keys or while you're there doing a quest or something. So lads, that is it. That is my wipe day tips video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Hopefully one of my tips will at least help you out on this latest wipe. This is in fact going to be the shortest wipe I think we've ever had. It's only going to last for about 4 months until the December update. So hopefully you guys have fun. Hopefully the patch is good. Hopefully it all goes smooth, and I wish you guys great raids, and I will see you on the next video. Peace out, my dudes.